We found it. So here's the culprit. We got the head gasket right here. This is the old one. And if you look really closely here, the gasket has actually separated right here, and that's what let coolant go from this passage to this passage. We can actually see some evidence of it right here on the block as well. Right here we have, you can see that some coolant's been passing from that port into here. So right there, that's our culprit. So the next step is to get everything cleaned up in here. We're gonna get the head taken over for machining. And the DET, we've already checked the block. The block is pretty straight. We're just gonna clean it up, get all the old gasket material off of there. And then we'll be able to put a new gasket in there, slap it back together. Check it out, the diff is actually silver, not black. Cylinders on, we're just about to install ARP head studs. ARP studs are pretty common for doing any head work. Usually just replace them. They're probably cheaper than your factory head bolts from the manufacturer, and they're rated for, I believe, higher grade, higher forces, better for performance engines than your factory ones. So they're sometimes a little bit easier to use. You got a stud, you've got some washers, and you've got some nuts. They got a little Allen key head to tighten down the studs, but they say just hand tight. So use a socket, but use a socket just to assist your hands in screwing it in. At that point, you're going to apply lubricant. They supply this lubricant, ARP Ultra Torque Fastener Assembly Lubricant. So you need that. Throw that on there. That will help make the torque a lot higher than actually what your torque wrench is torquing to. They say just to torque these to 80 foot-pounds on the RB, and the lubricant's going to do the rest. So let's get at her. Let's install these head studs and let's get to work. Just about to do the timing. What we want to do is set up our crankshaft so that it is ready to be aligned. So what we've done here is on this gear here where your timing belt rests on, it has a little tiny dot, you see right here, and it has to line up with this notch in the pump. The other way that I just found out by doing that to try to get this 100% top dead center is this keyway. When it's top dead center, this keyway is actually 100% straight up. So that's one way, easy way to find top dead center on these RBs. So at this point, we're gonna get the head on and put the cams in, and then we'll get that timing belt up and around there, and we'll find the other two marks. We're ready to put the cams in. Well, we got them all cleaned up and they're in there right now, set in place. But before we want to tighten this down, we want to be really careful not to tighten the wrong ones down, and they're going to crush the pistons that are underneath there. Not crush a piston, but they'll bend a valve, or they'll make some damage. So if we look at the front here, get you guys situated. Focus. Okay, So at the bottom here you can tell that we're at top dead center because this keyway is straight up and down. There's also a dot down here that lines up. And then on here, these dowels correspond with marks on the gear, and they correspond with the mark on the timing cover here. So that one needs to be lined up over here, and this guy needs to be lined up to that one there, which they are. So when we're tightening down, piston number 1 is all the way at the top, and piston number 6 is all the way at the top. So we want to make sure that these cam lobes look like an egg, are not pointed towards the bottom, which are going to push open those valves down. So we're good at the front here, there to the side, to the side, to the other side, and to the other side right there. So that is good. That is exactly where we want it. So as we put on all of these bridges here, we want to make sure that's in the same position and slowly, evenly tighten them down all the way across so we don't bend anything. Okay guys, so I just did a little bit of reading up on how to adjust this timing belt because I might have done it wrong on the Xterra. But basically, you just loosen the nut on the timing belt tensioner, and the spring will allow it just to sort of fall into place. And at that point, you're supposed to rotate the whole engine twice. The timing belt should have a bit of play in it. And after you've rotated it twice, that sort of makes everything be right where it needs to be. You hold the tensioner in place with an Allen key, and all you do is just tighten up that little nut here that holds it in there. And there we go, she's gone around twice now. Doesn't feel any binding or anything, so I think we're safe. So we should be good. Just tighten this guy up right here. So there you have it, timing belt's installed. We're all set to go to the next step.